And one of the things you're going to do is to stop at a prepared meat shop where you can buy barbecued pork all ready to go, or baby pigs. Did you see the roast pigs? I'll show you that one later on. It's a suckling pig. And of course a lupchong, wonderful sausages. Now watch this. In ancient Rome, I'm going to show you zamponi, which is a stuffed pig foot. I found it in China. How is it that the Chinese and the Romans both enjoy stuffed pig's feet? I can't answer that. I can't answer that. Now, on the top of the Lee Gardens Hotel, at the Rainbow Banquet Hall, the chef is cooking a suckling pig for us. This was one of the most dramatic moments in my culinary history because I didn't know how this was done. Now notice, he's using charcoal fire, none of that gas fire for him. He claims it doesn't give good flavor. The pig is, I think it's blanched first, and then it's seasoned a bit, and then stretched out on a rack and roasted over the fire by hand. And then the chef brings the pig into the dining room, and this is my friend Kendall Oy. He's a banker in Hong Kong. He's a wonderful man. And the skin of the pig is sliced off. Oh, this is Brenda Poon. She's with the Hong Kong Travel Authority. Wonderful woman. She took us everywhere in Hong Kong. Fine person. Now, back to the sermon. The skin is removed from the pig. The fat is taken off of it. And the skin is cut up. And that's what you eat. The rest of the pig goes back to the kitchen. You see how he cuts this very carefully? It's just the skin. He puts it back on the pig. Then the skin is put into a little pancake. Very much like, this is Ken's wife, Grace. She's so beautiful. It is put into a little pancake affair, very much like Peking duck. And it is just heaven. Very good, she said. That's as critical as she's going to get. She's a fine cook. Now, in Athens, you see things a little bit differently. Pork has been very, very popular in Greece for thousands of years. I'm having an argument with this man. He wins. He wins. I couldn't get it out of him for the price I wanted. In any case, in ancient Greece, pigs were fed on acorns and chestnuts, and they were wonderful. Now, in Rome, you'll not find as much fresh pork as you will find preserved pork. The best hams in the world come from Rome. And here's zamponi that stuffs pig's foot. You see it hanging there all dried and ready? And these are the wonderful hams from Rome. Oh, I can't. If you've never tasted one of those, if you've never tasted a beautiful pancetta, excuse me, that's bacon. The ham is very different. This is very, very beautiful, and it's dried and wonderful. It's none of that squishy stuff that we have. When you have dinner in a restaurant that is typical of the region of Bologna, you can order stuffed pig's foot or zamponi. I'm going to make one of these for you one of these days. This came with a boiled dinner. Look at that. All pork. It's stuffed with a sausage very much like cottaghino. He gave me the best part. Look at this. It's a pig's foot. Just the skin. The bone in the center is removed, and this is a great holiday delicacy. And the foot itself is stuffed and then boiled and served. It's absolutely incredible. It's got to be one of my favorite pork dishes in the whole world. Did you remember the picture we had of Michaela eating there with me, the gorgeous lady that was there, cooked a zamponi for me when I first went to Rome. I'll never be the same. All right, let's start cooking. First of all, we have to start with China, because the Chinese really love pork more than anybody. So I'm going to prepare for you crispy roast side pork, and we'll just cook until we have to quit today, which is what we always do. First thing you want to do with a piece of side pork, this is fresh bacon, you see. Try and find a nice lean piece, but the skin is still on it. We want that. You want to puncture this skin, and I'm using, look at this, I'm using an ice pick, which has several prongs on it. You can make a little board with some nails in it and do that, or you can use just a plain old ice pick, you see. But what you want to do is to poke a lot of holes in this, and then you want to put about a teaspoon of salt on it, about a half on each side, you see. We're going to draw out some of the moisture, rub it in. That's enough. Rub it in, and then I'll show you the marinade. This is so wonderful. If you like barbecued pork, well, I think this is better. It's called lichin in the market, in the Chinese market. Wonderful thing. Now, we'll make a marinade of 1 tablespoon of main seed. You remember when we talked about condiments, main seed is sometimes called soybean jam or soybean condiment. It's wonderful stuff. And a tablespoon of dark soy sauce, not that light one, but the dark one. See how black the color is? It's primarily sugar that colors it that, or molasses. A little bit of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon. We don't need much salt, because there's a lot of salt in soy sauce. So you don't need that. And about a teaspoon of sugar. A little sugar, not to make it sweet, but just to enhance the flavors. That'll do it for you. And some ginger. I want about a teaspoon of ginger. And I'm going to use my little bitty washboard here, so you can just grate that. Fresh ginger root. Buy that in almost any American supermarket in our time. All right, mix that all up. I'll give you the recipe again. Mains tea, dark soy, salt, sugar, the ginger, and finally, a bit of garlic. Let me show you what I'm going to do. I have given up crushing garlic each time, and I'm now chopping garlic, about 40 cloves at a time, and putting it in a jar and sticking it in the refrigerator with a little bit of oil on it. So we want 1 clove of garlic, and it's all chopped up and ready, you see. I chopped it in my food processor. You understand what I'm saying? Works great. Works great. No, don't throw away your garlic press. You need that too. Now, the side pork or fresh bacon goes into the sauce, and marinate this for, a good couple of hours. There we are. You can get by with an hour, I suppose. And then this will go on a rack. And you can put it on any sort of oven rack. I'll show you what I've done with mine. Where did I put it? You want to broil it with the skin side up. Bake it first, then broil it. Let's get this straight. Bake it first with the skin side up. Let me get one out here and show it to you. In about a 3, where is he here? I have so many pork dishes for you. So good. Ouch, he shrunk a little bit, of course. Put him on a rack and broil him with the skin side up at about 1.5 hours. Bake him 1.5 hours at 350. Now, the reason I'm confusing myself and you too is because after you bake him for an hour and a half at 350 degrees, turn on the broiler. So you put him in the middle rack of the oven, baked him for an hour and a half, and then you turn on the broiler and broil the skin until it is crunchy. See that? And this dish is highly prized in China. Highly prized because it's very, very rich and very delicious.
Cain and Abel Part 2, tonight at 9 on Lifetime.
With the iced tea pot by Mr. Coffee, you can make delicious fresh brewed iced tea in about 10 minutes for pennies a glass. So if you're under the spell of expensive bottled iced teas, snap out of it. The iced tea pot by Mr. Coffee.
My youngest son, Mark, doesn't exactly wear his heart on his sleeve. So last Mother's Day, I was surprised to find he'd gotten me a special card. It was a hallmark that said, "Mom, I know I seldom let you know how I feel, but I think of you often, and I love you very much." Those words, they said something to me that I know he could never, ever say out loud. Hallmark has the ways to say you care.
Looks like he's ready to eat with the big guys. It's tempting to let him eat adult foods now, but his growing body still has special nutritional needs. Needs that can be better served at any meal with Gerber Graduates, the only complete line of nutritionally smart foods made just for toddlers. The longer you can help him grasp the lesson of eating healthy now, the better his chances are for eating smart when he really is a big guy. Gerber Graduates, for learning to eat smart right from the start.
Another meal made simple with pork. Slice it. Sizzle it. Splash it. 3 easy steps to create a real stir. Pork, the other white meat.
Excuse me, but why aren't you flexing your teeth?
Flexing?
With Aquafresh Flex, the only toothbrush designed with a flexible neck. Flex helps you brush away plaque, yet it's still gentle to your gums. And 4 out of 5 dentists agree that brushing too hard can damage gum tissue. Look, Flex's shock-absorbing action is so gentle, it doesn't even damage the tender skin of this ripe tomato. Healthy teeth need healthy gums. So stop brushing and start flexing with the Aquafresh Flex.
We now return to the Frugal Gourmet on Lifetime.
Everybody thinks that barbecue pork's the best thing in China, but it's just not. And it's not typical of good Hong Kong eating. You don't order that at a dinner. But I'll show you what I've done. I have a batch of it here. And I'm just going to give you the recipe loosely. What I want to show you is the process of cooking, because that's more important than your seasonings. I have marinated the pork, and let me show you what kind of a piece I've used. Buy pork butt, you see, that's not completely lean, because it must have a little fat in it, or the meat's going to be dry. And that's not what you want. Now, cut the meat up into strips. about, oh, an inch and a half square or so, like this, you see. And then marinate the meat in a mixture of soy sauce, chicken broth. This is all in our cookbook on 3 Ancient Cuisines, so I'm not going to do the whole thing for you. I just want you to see it. But it's chicken broth, soy, main C, wine or sherry, a bit of honey. That's what gives it the color. Garlic, of course, and some salt. And the thing you have to hear about is hosin. Hosin sauce. Hosin sauce is a bean product with a bit of soy and sugar in it, and it's sometimes called a barbecue sauce in China. And it's just wonderful, and that'll give it the flavor. But the other thing is the main C, the fermented bean, which is left over from the process of making soy sauce. This is what makes the difference between good barbecue pork and plain old stuff you buy in a Chinese deli down the street. It's not worth it. This is the kind you want. Roast this in a rack. So I have a rack so that heat can get under as well. I have 2 racks here. You see that? I have 2 racks. This one has water underneath it so that I won't have any smoke in the oven. That's as close as you can come to a Chinese oven in your own kitchen. And roast it at about 350 degrees for, about 45 minutes, and then turn the heat up to 450 degrees and let it sit for about 15 minutes in the oven. And then you'll get that crunchy coating that, well, that I absolutely love. It's really just burned sugar, but why not? Let me put a bit on a plate here and we'll go on. Oh boy, I can't even find a spot to put everything. I have piggies all over the place. Can you imagine 400 million pigs in the world? Why not? There. This is not that dry stuff you see in a restaurant, you see, because they cook theirs way ahead of time and then they put it in the refrigerator and let it dry and then they slice it up for you. It's just, I think it's disgusting stuff. I never order it in an American restaurant, unless, of course, it's someone that I know is going to do a good job for me. But this is great. This is just wonderful stuff. And you can make a batch of that, keep it in your refrigerator, and then cook it with other dishes. Recook it, so to speak. All right? Now, I can show you spare ribs, too, but that's, again, basically the same sort of sauce, but add a little bit of Tabasco to your spare rib sauce, and you'll have something really wonderful. A little bit of sesame oil and some 5-spice wouldn't hurt. And I have spare ribs all over the place, too. These are just beautiful. I baked them at 400 degrees. That sounds a little high for you, but 400 degrees is just about right, for about 35 or 40 minutes. And then I stuck them under the broiler for just a moment because I wanted to put a glaze on them. And that's how you get the glaze, is a little bit of, there, a little bit of last-minute broiling. Then you cut these up and serve them. Oh, Lord, that's heavy. Cut these up and serve them to your guests. Don't cut them up and cook them separately. You understand what I'm saying? That means you're going to have a very dry product. You don't want that. I want to show you a dish that I learned from a wonderful woman by the name of Annie Gilo. Annie taught me something. Annie was from Taiwan. This dish you can cook overnight. Did you get that? Let me give you the recipe. First of all, this is a fancy casserole from China. It's very cheap, but it's called a sand pot. Sand pot. You can use any kind of casserole you want. Into that, I'm going to put 3 green onions. 1, 2, 3. Just throw them in the pot. Cut them up into big pieces here. 3 green onions. About a teaspoon of ginger, fresh ginger. We're going to make a simmered pot roast, pork roast, so we don't have to do a thing to it. Just wonderful stuff. And we're going to add a couple of star anise. This is a wonderful condiment, and it is a star. So right away, the one that comes out doesn't look like a star. It looks like somebody stepped on him. Well, those two look like stars, you see. I don't buy very good quality because they're third the price of the expensive ones, so that you see, if they had all of their stars in, then you'd pay 3 times as much money. But we just want a couple of star anise flowers, because the Chinese like to decorate with star anise. That's why it's more expensive. You don't need that. 2 tablespoons of main C or soybean condiment. That's plenty. And let's see, 2 tablespoons of light soy sauce. Yes, I have to check my recipes. I wish that I could remember 2 tablespoons there of light soy sauce. The complexity of Chinese cooking. It's a matter of well-balanced condiments. And you really have to pay attention to what you're doing. 2 teaspoons of brown sugar to sweeten it a bit. Brown sugar, a half cup of wine. Now, I'm using Chinese rice wine. You can use dry sherry, of course. Oh, this is a good dish. It's just one of my favorites ever. I love it. I keep telling you that all the time. You must wonder about me, don't you, huh? How many favorites can you have? Well, when my second son was born, Jason, he nearly died. I've told you that story, I think. And I stopped and hugged him. And I said, little man, I don't think I can ever love you as much as I love your brother. His brother was already 18 months old. You know the problem I'm talking about? Of course, it was a stupid thing to have to think about because your loves go on and on and on. So now I've got two of them, and I love them both. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So if I keep saying to you, this is my favorite dish in the whole world, trust me, it's the truth. All right, I want a whole 2 or 3 cloves of garlic chopped up, and now a little bit of white pepper. There we go. Oh, what, half a teaspoon? And about 2 cups of water. Just water right out of the tap. This will make its own broth. There we go. And then we're going to put the pork roast in and mix all of this up. You see? Isn't this fun? It's a fabulous dish. Stir all of this up and then add the pork roast. Just set the old pork roast of about 2.5 pounds of pork butt right in the pot. And I told you, you can use a plain casserole if you like. Put him in there and put him in a 275-degree oven. You heard me. 275 is what you want. Turn him over once or twice during the baking process and bake him anywhere between 5 hours and 8 hours. That is to say, you can make this late at night before you go to bed and get up in the morning to the most heavenly smell. 275, no more, in the oven. Get up the most heavenly smell. You can't believe it. It's so wonderful. I have one all prepared for you. Too hot to handle? Well, not quite. Are you ready? This is wonderful odor, wonderful flavor, fabulous dish. There. I'm going to turn that over before I put it out for you. I want you to see how tender it is. You see, it'll just fall apart right now. You see that? Look at it. Oh, it's good. And you just rip this up and serve it. You don't try and cut it. That's a waste of time. You don't try and cut it at all. You just tear it up and put it on the table for your guests. There.
Tonight on Sisters.
I have known my child a lot longer than you have. And believe me, she is not prepared for la vie boheme.
We're being evicted? I really hate to ask, but would you help us?
Frankie, how would you feel about raising our son as a Jew?
You see, I've decided to convert.
One of the things your father and I gave you girls was our faith. By turning your back on that, you're not just denying your religion, you're denying us.
Tonight at 8 p.m., only on Lifetime. She's very impressionable. What she eats today can affect how she'll eat as she grows older. Teaching him to enjoy nutritious foods today is the first step to eating smart tomorrow. The first 24 months are the most impressionable, the most important to stay with Gerber. This is your baby's best chance to learn to enjoy so many foods. Gerber, for learning to eat smart, right from the start.
You know what I hate? 6 a.m. Never controlling the remote control.
What?
Miracle diets. What do I love? This stuff. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, and this. And hey, I can even get it fat-free.
Fat-free? And for Mother's Day, pick up a TCBY cake the whole family can enjoy.
A TCBY cake for Mom? She'll really love that.
A mature look at breakfast.
Hold on there, hot foot. You gotta eat. I'm waiting.
Always bolting out without breakfast?
Would you relax?
How about trying the big, ripe, sweet taste of Kellogg's Cherry Pop-Tarts?
The nectar of the gods.
Hot and fast from the toaster.
You love cherries.
Listen to the voice of maturity. They're good.
Isn't that better?
Real good, real fast.
Life is just a bowl of cherries. But skipping breakfast is a pit. Watch closely. Presto, change-o! It's the new Kraft 100% grated Parmesan package. See, unlike some other grated toppings, Kraft now has a new snap-tight lid. Same great taste. Snappy to package.
Another meal made simple with pork. Slice it, saute it, and smother it. Whatever goes on top, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. Pork, the other white meat.
We now return to the Frugal Gourmet on Lifetime.
There are wonderful things you can do with Chinese meatballs. Basic pork ground up with basic seasoning of soy, sherry, and ginger, that sort of thing. I have some others in the book that'll be kind of fun for you, but here's what I want you to do. Think about this sort of thing. Let's see, where's the, here it is. This one is great fun, and I'm not quite sure what we're going to call it. Good Chinese meatballs, you see? And I'm going to roll them in a noodle. And this noodle is called a siphon. Remember we've talked about this? And I've chopped it up into short pieces so that it's going to look like this little noodle has lamb's wool on it. Or sometimes they're called bird's nest noodles. I'll do a couple of these and throw them in the fat. It'll take just a minute before you, well, you'll see what'll happen. Let's do that now. Okay, now this is 360 degrees, and they'll take just a moment to cook. Now you have to get them out. Do a whole batch, about 4 seconds, take them out and drain them, and then later on turn your fat down to 325 and cook them until they're finished. And let me show you what you have. You can name this dish anything you want, for heaven's sakes, but what happens is they wind up looking like meatballs with lamb's wool on them, or lamb's wool or bird's nest. I know what my boys would call this. You know what they would call this? They would call this dish meatballs with a disease. Isn't that wonderful? Look at them. But they're very beautiful. You can also roll the meatballs in soaked, sticky sweet rice. That's a wonderful pearl rice that's been, it's very high in gluten. And soak them. Soak the rice first, and then roll the meatball in it. Put it on a little lettuce square, you see? Little square of lettuce. This goes in your steamer. And then steam these for about 45 minutes. And let me show you what you have. Oh, this one's fun. I'm using an electric wok today. I've told you never to buy one, because I don't think any of them get hot enough. But this one, what is this? This is a Maxim. Let me shut it off here. There, it's off. And it does get hot enough just for steaming. I don't chow in it. But here you have what are called pearl meatballs. See how beautiful they are? And the sticky sweet rice takes on a glisten very much like a pearl. So you have pearl meatballs. Now let's go to Athens, and I have a pot here. This is so simple that all I'm going to tell you is that what you do is to, let me find a pot fork here. Here we go. Is to brown some pork roast, boneless pork roast, and then cook it with a bit of broth and wine, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then during the last half hour before it's really tender, you add a whole bunch of chopped celery leaves. And I want lots of leaves because it's the celery that gives this dish the incredible flavor. Very, very simple cooking. The Greeks don't do a lot with dramatic flavorings, and I don't suppose they should, but it's a wonderful dish. Celery and pork. We had this at Taverna Sigilas at Monstraki Square in Athens. You've got to try it. Finally, in Rome, oh, do they go to a lot of work. Pork is considered a holiday dish in Rome, and look at this one. They will tell us a big plate for this. Ah, here we are. The pork roast is rolled up inside of side pork, you see, fresh bacon. And then I have rosemary and olive oil, salt and pepper in mine, nothing more. And then you bake this until the skin is very, very crunchy. And when you slice it, the drama that occurs is just terrific. Let me show you here. Get the right spot for us. It's just wonderful. Look at that. You see how beautiful it is? Hear that crunchiness? That's what you want. That crunchiness is what does it. Let me put this on a serving platter now. There. This is so... Actually, I have a friend with me today who's sitting in the corner glaring at me in the corner of my kitchen. He's behind the stove. Stay there. His name is Roberto Balzoni from Rome. And Roberto said, no, that's not just Roman. It came from Bologna, which is near Modena, which is where he was born. He and Pavarotti, you see. Wonderful foods in Italy, where pork is celebrated properly. Don't just think of pork sausage in our culture. Think of the fact that pork has an incredible history and wonderful possibilities. You can go on and on and on with pork. I've tried to go on and on and on today, so let's review. First of all, I made for you a crispy side pork from China. I gave you the recipe on that one. That's easy to do. Barbecued pork is simple, providing you remember you have to have heat all the way around. Spare ribs are basically the same marinade, but with a shot of Tabasco and a little sesame oil. You must try Annie Gilo, that's her name, Annie Gilo's pot roast. This is wonderful from Taiwan. Fuzzy meatballs, or meatballs with lamb's wool, pearl meatballs, a wonderful pork roast, pork roll really, from Rome, and finally, from Athens, pork cooked with celery. There it is. Now, how do we thank the pig? Well, first of all, you realize that you and I have to stop maligning the pig. It's not fair to say of someone, he eats like a pig, and try and be insulting, or to say he's dirty as a pig. Pigs are clean if you give them a chance. That's the truth. Well, enough with pigs. This is the Frugal Gourmet. Until I see you again, I bid you peace. Oink, oink.